And I think that in part leads into the whole Jezebel spirit thing. Because when I first heard him say that, it didn't sit right with me, and I couldn't entirely figure out why. Aside from the fact that, like, why are you dragging women into this, right? But specifically the term Jezebel spirit, it just totally didn't sit right with me. And I actually want to read something because this really articulated it well for me. So I obviously didn't write this. This was written by a lady named Sheila. I don't know how to say her last name. Sheila Gregory. I don't know.
Okay.
But she is really actually a very interesting person. She and her daughter do a lot of work on trying to dismantle the really problematic and traumatic teachings that came from the purity culture movement. And they're very much doing it in a actually helpful biblical sense, not in like a to hell with it all, like throw morals out the window and throw whatever out the window, throw it all out the window kind of a way. But in like what does the Bible actually say about these kinds of topics, and what are the things that men decided to just teach as if it was in the Bible. And so I really like her work, and she's the one who wrote this specifically about this situation. And she said, for those asking why we're saying the Jezebel spirit comment by Mark Driscoll was a common sexist insult, let me explain. The Jezebel spirit is a misogynistic insult that is given towards any woman who dares to speak up for other women. I get called it on social media constantly, and so does every other abuse advocate I know. It's a way to try to put women in their place. Let me skip down. The Jezebel spirit is mentioned nowhere in the Bible. It's an insult used to target women as dangerous, in the way the word witch was in the 16th and 17th centuries. Any woman who dares to question male authority is labeled thus. If the men and fundamentalist women who use the term liberally truly were calling out a Jezebel spirit based on biblical text, the closest justification is from Revelation 2, where it does talk about a Jezebel that is not the one mentioned in the Old Testament, but more representative, though still not a Jezebel spirit. But to be consistent, they would also have to speak about the spirit of Balaam, who is called out for the exact same thing as Jezebel. But have you ever heard of a Balaam spirit, or ever heard of a man being labeled as a Balaam?
Which would have been the perfect context.
Never. Which would have been, if you were going to do anything in that context, that would have been it.
Yeah.
They label us as Jezebel when it has nothing to do with fornication, which is what she's called out for in Revelation 2. They label us as Jezebel when we say that women are dear to God and should be listened to. It's not a sincere rebuke centered on Christ. It's a way sexist men and women try to silence Christian women who are arguing for justice. And because it's only sexist and misogynistic people who use the term, then when you get called a Jezebel, it's usually a sign that you're doing something right. If you're concerned about demonic influences in modern society, that's fine. Argue for that and call things out when you see them, but don't just call women Jezebel spirits. Jezebel spirit has no place in modern discourse and perpetuates the abuse of Christian women. It needs to stop.
Wow.
That is
your stance.
What she said. But that kind of summed up what I'm thinking. Like, why is it that it's okay to just throw around that term when women have absolutely nothing to do with what went on there? why is it that people feel so free to even unconsciously, I mean, even if like it's a lack of thought thing, like it's become, I'll phrase it as a question, has it become so second nature to blame women for things like that people just don't even think about it? I don't know.
I think in a lot of ways that's probably the case, because I mean, Pastor Lucado, how many times has he heard that phrase, Jezebel spirit? And and it's like, we do this all the time. We're like, I don't know what it means, but I could describe the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
What if that was his case, where he's heard that growing up in the church himself, or, in his many years of service, whatever that looks like. And that's just what he labels the situation as, and he doesn't even fully understand. Like, I'm trying to think now, and I mean, I encourage all of us to do this, because I'm trying to think of where Jezebel comes up in the Bible and like what her story actually truly was. And like, so what I said is a part of what I understand it to be, but I'm like, I want to go back and look at that. And just kind of parse apart what does that even mean, and like when or if it's even okay to label people as that, which, I mean, I don't think it's good to just label people. I'd rather somebody say, hey, this is what you're doing, this is why it's a concern, like, let's look at other options, than just throwing a term at somebody and saying you're being a such and such. That's not helpful. That doesn't move us forward. And so, like, I understand what she's saying in that, like, you can't just throw that around for what? And like, especially considering that the context, it's usually when women are standing up and actually doing something, that all of a sudden that is thrown to like cover it, because it's like, oh, the women shouldn't be doing that. But then if we look at, and maybe I'm taking us off topic a tiny bit, but I'm going to go there.
Do it.
The Proverbs 31 woman, I'm like, would she be labeled as a Jezebel spirit? Because she was like up and buying and selling and doing things, and like considering fields and purchasing them without her husband's help. And like, again, industrious and just having her own business, caring for things on her own, like being outspoken. And it, in the context that I've heard Jezebel spirit, or like just that thing, like that's what it's typically labeled on.
Yeah.
And so what is the messaging for us as women? Like, what are we supposed to be doing here?
I agree. I think that term Jezebel spirit has been used so openly and so freely to describe or to label a woman, to insult a woman who the user of that term feels is just simply doing too much. You're doing too much. You're taking up too much space. You're being too loud. You're too opinionated. You're too whatever. You're doing too much. I feel like it's been used in terms outside of even just a, sexual sin kind of a sense, which again is not even totally accurate. And if you are going to even try to accurately label a woman as being a Jezebel, which again, don't, but if you are going to try to do it in the most accurate way possible, then keep up that accurate energy. And where's the
admonishment
labeling
for the men,
I
guess.
Yeah.
Which, and again, I what I don't want is this to turn into a whole, like, I don't want us to come across as like, oh, men are trash because now they're doing this.
Not at all.
Like, and that's why I'm clarifying, because I think that this was just very unfortunate and full of confusion. And I think we have to be careful, yes, about what we're putting on other people and how we're drawing other people into things. If this was a women's conference and like, I don't know what they would bring out that would be the equivalent. Like, I actually have no clue, but I don't think it would also be fair to all of a sudden be like, well, this is because of the men. Like, And again, I don't really think that that's what he was trying to do, but I think that that's just what happened.
You don't think he was trying to do what?
I don't think he was trying to blame women per se. But
I actually disagree with you.
No, I don't think he was trying to, but I believe that, like, again, the culture that sometimes comes up and the messaging that can come up and just these like deep rooted thoughts that happen in the church, like it can be perceived that way. I don't really think that that's what he was trying to do.
Here's why I think I disagree with you.
Okay.
And this is actually maybe another like point of contention maybe that I have with this whole thing is what is the vetting process that your planning team goes through and who they choose to ask to speak at these events. Now in this specific case, the Bill what's his face,
oh gosh, let's put some respect on his name.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe
I should, but to be honest, I don't feel like I want to.
I know, but
that's a personal thing.
Yeah,
I'll work that out myself.
Bring
later.
it to Jesus.
Bill Johnson.
Okay.
He has a bit of a controversial past, to say the least.
Okay.
When it comes to him and his church. Scammy things, some shady things, some like weird prosperity gospel type stuff, like just weird, like problematic kind of stuff. So, I mean, if he's the one who's heading up this whole thing, then it kind of makes sense to me that he would be okay with asking somebody to speak who has a similar reputation. But Mark Driscoll has a history.
I think I called him Max Lucado earlier. I did not mean that. It's Driscoll. Max Lucado. Is it Max Lucado? I'm so sorry. I redact that statement. It's Driscoll. I'm very sorry. I need to put respect on his name too.
It's not even Max.
Isn't Mark?
Yeah, Mark.
I don't know
Mark
what I'm
Driscoll.
Talking about. Okay, guys.
You know, whatever. What
From
I
this
see in my
point forward,
head.
can you just please say the names one more time for everyone's clarity, including my own?
Bill Johnson is the pastor
who heads
up the whole situation.
Yes.
Who kicked Mark Driscoll
is
off the stage.
Mark Driscoll is the guest, and I put quotes around it, the friend of Bill Johnson.
Okay.
Who went on stage and spoke against the performer.
Making the Jezebel comments.
Yes.
Okay.
I knew all this. The reason I keep saying Max Lucado is because I recently was at the bookstore and I saw a book by him that looked interesting. And so now his name is stuck in my head.
That's so funny.
And so, yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
You know what I think whenever I see I say the name Mark Driscoll is, you know, when you go to the grocery store and you get the raspberries and the name of like the farm or whatever is like Driscoll.
Strawberries and
that's what I see.
Yes.
In my head every time. It's like
me too now.
Driscoll.
Yeah.
Raspberries.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Yeah. He's got a bit of a sexist history himself.
Interesting.
With the things that he's said about women and to women. I think one of the most popular controversial things that he said was referring to women as penis homes. And so for that reason,
Jesus, anytime you want to come back, please.
Now would be good.
Right now
would be good.
Right this second.
Yeah. But for that reason, and so many other comments that he's made, like there's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't believe that he was actually not intending to be derogatory towards women or blaming women or anything like that. I actually don't believe that at all. Because that him not intending to be that way would be inconsistent with so much of what like has come out about him in the past.
But I guess sorry.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Okay.
What about specifically backs up your claim that his intent was to speak down on women based on what he said? Versus you just feel this way because you know his history.
Okay, let me continue.
Oh, because I was going to say, I think if I could just tack on, because my question was about to be kind of similar. Which I feel like I have to preface because I almost feel like right now, like I'm playing devil's advocate and it makes me feel a little icky. I don't think that what happened was good. I don't think it should have happened. I'm not saying like I support yay or nay. Like honestly, it was a men's conference. It's none of my business. But since it happened in Christian culture and it's being talked about, here we are. But my thought was he intentionally being derogatory to women in that moment? Or is he come from a background in which the lens in which he views things has a poor view of women, and so that comes out always?
Yeah.
In which case, are we blaming him for that specifically, or like what? That warrants even deeper conversation, I guess.
Okay. Let me.
So yeah,
can I keep going?
Shoot for the stars.
Yeah. Okay. I think. Okay, actually, let me say this. Because at the end of the day, I don't know the man. So maybe I should clarify and say that I cannot just assume that his intent, like hard and fast, was to be rude towards women in saying that. However, I wonder if because of his past approaches to women in the way that he speaks about them and his evident thoughts towards their value, etc., would just cause him to think or not think about women in a certain way that would lead him to make those remarks. Does that make more sense? So, yeah, maybe he wasn't intending, watch this, I'm going to be so rude towards women, watch this, But is his underlying thoughts and feelings towards women so little and so demeaning, I guess, that it just comes out?
Yeah.
Unintentionally.
Yeah.
I don't know.